to get started, get the car off the ground and on jack stands, front and rear. Then remove all 4 wheels. Then you want to go around and spray the bleed screws with penetrating oil. I like PB Blaster. We hit the bleed screw with penetrating oil, just a drop. For the wheel then, what you want is a piece of tubing, probably about a foot long. This is like the fish tank tubing you get at the pet store. You want a catch container, water bottle, and a 9mm wrench for the bleed screw. The sequence that you normally follow is the caliper furthest from the master cylinder first. So, passenger rear, then move to the driver's rear, passenger front, driver's front. Now this is your master cylinder brake fluid reservoir. That's your brake booster right there. You want to clean this guy off good. So if there's any dirt or anything around, it's not going to go in the reservoir. Take some newspapers and tear a piece out of the middle and put that around like that. So if you do drip any, it'll drip on the paper. Now we can use a turkey baster type thing and suck all the old brake fluid out of the reservoir, so we're not actually going to be pushing through this old fluid. We're going to be pushing through new right from the beginning. Let's first look at pump the pedal method. It's a two-man job. One guy presses the brake pedal, the other guy bleeds the caliper. Now we can add brake fluid. Make sure your container of fluid never gets shaken or there's no bubbles in it. You don't want to be shaking around. Also use a very clean funnel, probably one dedicated just for this. Add brake fluid, try to do so without adding any bubbles. So at the caliper then, we put our wrench on the bleed screw and we then put our hose on the nipple part. And now we're ready for our pumping guy. As I push my foot to the floor, I don't want to let the pedal go all the way to the floor. So what I do is, that could damage the master cylinder inside. So what I do is I take my left shoe off, put my foot up and under the pedal so I can feel it approaching bottom. You don't want to let the pedal up from the floor until that valve screw is closed. So start out, pump up the pedal. Okay, now I'm ready. You tell the guy, okay, I'm ready. Okay, opening the bleed screw. Give it a few taps with the rubber mallet. Let me get the bubbles out, and you see the clear fluids start to turn dark blue. We want to keep the hose submerged in any fluid, so if the guy does let up on his foot, we won't suck any air back in, but we'll suck up fluid. As the fluid leaks out, my pedal will sink to the floor. Okay, approaching bottom. Okay, closing the bleed screw. Closed. Okay, now I can let the pedal up and I can pump it and do it all over again. Now we repeat that same sequence of him pumping the pedal and me bleeding the brake maybe 5 or 6 times. Every second time you want to always take a look at that master cylinder reservoir and make sure it's filled. You don't want to run it empty. Let's look at the pressure bleeder method. We're going to take our bleeder, take the top off. We're going to take our brake fluid and we're going to pour it into the bottle, trying to not create any bubbles in the fluid. If there's old fluid in the machine, it might be a good idea to wipe it out. And you pull your whole quart of fluid in the bottle. We're probably only going to need a whole quart to do the whole job. Sometimes I use 1.5 quarts just because I like to give extra bleeding. Tighten the stopper, now we put it on the car. Next we take our bleeder and we hook it up to the stopper on the master cylinder. So, twist this thing backwards a bit and we'll attach it and we'll screw it on. Okay, that's pretty tight. Now, we pump this guy up to 15 psi. At the rear passenger caliper then, we put our wrench on the bleed screw, then we put our hose on the bleeder nipple. We put a little catch bottle in the container like that, and we just crack the bleed screw, and the fluid starts to flow. Hit the back side of the caliper, you get a lot more bubbles. A lot more bubbles. Do that a few times and you won't get any more. Let it run until you see the fresh new blue stuff run through. That's all that's to it really. Just keep doing it until there's no more little bubbles coming. Give it a tap every now and then. You get a few more bubbles when you give it a tap. So that's it for this wheel. We're just going to tighten the bleed screw now. Not too much. German torque, good and tight. Alright, that's it. Now we move on to the other wheels. As you move between the wheels, you always want to come back and check your pressure bleeder. Make sure that it's, around 15 psi. And check that reservoir and make sure that it's not getting low and that there's no kink in the hose and it's properly feeding brake fluid to the reservoir. Now, using the pressure bleeder, we're going to bleed the transmission slave cylinder. Okay, so up and under the center of your car, you're going to find your transmission, and the slave cylinder is right here, and this is your bleed screw. Now, this whole hydraulic system for your manual transmission is hooked up to your brake reservoir. That's why we can bleed this with the brake fluid. So, get our bottle hooked up to this, like that. You might want to have glasses or something on so dirt doesn't get in your face. We put our 7mm wrench on this. Now what we see here is that it's not actually bleeding through the hole, it's bleeding down through the side, and that's because this bleed screw is clogged up, probably rusted inside, because I haven't done it in several years. Looks like it's bleeding just a little bit. I'm just going to let it bleed, let it drip down like that. I'm going to get a catch pan. Anyways, right now the pressure bleeder is bleeding this. If you don't have a pressure bleeder, you could just get your friend to press the brake pedal while you're down here tightening this one, just like a brake. Get your friend to pump the pedal, bleed it that way. Just gonna let this. So when you're done bleeding it, just tighten it back up. And put the little dust cap back on. Now that we're done pressure bleeding, you just slacken this and let the pressure out. Okay. Check the level on our reservoir. Now we're going to take this fluid, whatever's left in here, not very much, that much there. We'll just top up the reservoir to make sure it's at the max mark. So some people wonder, how do you go about bleeding brakes with ABS? Well, you know what? We just did it. If you really want to get the old brake fluid that may be trapped in the ABS unit or solenoids, just go out in slippery weather, like winter time with snow or a dirt road, actuate the ABS several times, and then go home and bleed your brakes all over again. That should get out any trapped brake fluid you didn't get first time around. Well guys, that's it. Not too difficult. Go around, double check all those bleed screws, make sure they're tight, put the dust caps back on, put the wheels back on, torque the bolts to 80 foot-pounds. Thanks for watching, and feel free to leave any comments or questions below.